It's time. Let's get ready for 3 Things with Sundance. First things first, let's ask some curious questions. Today's sales philosophy is, at the heart of what we do, we are problem solvers. Very often we are solving problems that people didn't even know they had. How do we find out about those problems? How do we come to light about those problems? How do we bring those to the forefront? How do we make our customers aware that they even have a problem, right? You ask questions. If you see something on the credit report, ask a question. If the customer mentions something about a second job, ask a question. If the customer mentions something about retirement or college or kids or dogs or a hobby or whatever it is, ask a question. Questions give us control of the tone and the pace of the conversation. If we don't like the answer that we get, then we can ask a different question or we can move on. We can pivot. But the more questions we ask, the more information we're going to get. Now, that is not to mean that we're just on a, we're not filling out just a 1003. It's not an interrogation. There is an art form to asking these questions, which brings us to our sales tip of the day. So the 3-question method. So when you ask a question, very often the first response is what we believe that the universe wants us to say. What is the social norm? So if I ask you how you're doing today, you will likely say something like, I'm fine, I'm good, I'm doing well, because that's what is socially acceptable. If I ask you again, question number 2, you're gonna give me the answer that you think, maybe what does Sundance want? From a customer's perspective, they're going to give you the answer that maybe my loan officer wants. So if I ask you again, how was your day? You might think, hey, what does Sundance want me to say here? Probably something about work, because that's how we know each other. So you're going to say, well, work is going pretty well. I'm just getting used to this work from home thing. And a couple of questions about phone calls, maybe a technology or something, right? It's going to be work related. So same thing with your customer. Now, step 3, third question. Very likely you're going to get them to reevaluate the answers they've already given and realize that that was not what we were looking for. And so they're going to try to give you an answer that's authentic from themselves. How do they actually feel? So again, if I ask you how you're feeling today, I think I'm good, Sundance, everything's going well. I said, no, not how's it really going today? Like what's new? What's going on? You're going to say something about work. Well, I mean, to be honest, I wish the phone calls were a little, would pick it up. I'm having trouble overcoming objections for a hard pull. I get the soft pull fine, or whatever it is, right? It's going to be work related. I said, well, yeah, but how are you doing? What's going on in there? How's everything holding up? You might give me an answer that's a little more personal. And it's going to say something like, oh yeah, so we're just trying to cope the best we can with being cooped up at home for 3+ weeks at this point in time. So I got a daily routine. I'm doing my very best. It really helps me that I get to see a friendly face every once in a while on your videos. Oh, awesome, right? From our customer's perspective, we can't just drill them like that though. So you do have to be a little artistic about how you ask these questions. So we know a couple of things. Before they even answer the phone, we know that they want a lower interest rate and a lower monthly payment. Right? Because nobody calls in to get a higher rate and a higher payment. Even when they want cash out, they still want a lower rate and monthly payment. So I don't know how that works, but it always works. They want a lower rate and lower monthly payment. So let's just get that out of the way right away, because that's what they think they should ask. So we ask a simple question like, so do you have any other specific goals you'd like me to look at today? How can I help you, kind of a thing? They say, yeah, I think I'd like a lower interest rate, maybe a lower monthly payment. You say, that's fantastic. I was hoping you were going to say that. So let me ask you, is the monthly payment most important for you here? And if so, how much were you looking to save? Oh, yeah, I'd like to save $100. Notice they didn't say that they want a lower interest rate. Sometimes people at this question will say, no, the interest rate's lower. In fact, I was hoping maybe I'll go to a shorter term. I can pay this off faster. Got it. Now you have some direction. Third question is, well, how does that extra monthly payment impact you? What does that do for you and your family? You don't have to ask that right away. That third question can wait a little bit until you've answered some other questions, maybe after you pulled soft pull and you're waiting for some information to populate from Home Loan View or Title 360 or whatever the case is, right? You can ask those questions to fill the time, and that also helps your transitions because there's very little downtime. All right, so ask 3 questions, and then remember, folks, pull credit on everybody, and always get at least one reason to move forward that is non-mortgage related. Non-mortgage related. So I don't care about rates and fees. We got to find out some benefits. All right, the sales deep thought of the day: the duologue versus the dialogue. So this is sometimes complicated, but I think you're going to get me because you are sharper than the average bear. So you understand what a monologue is, right? Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy Kimmel, like they get up on stage and they give their monologue, which is just their little pre-done speech. So a duologue is very much like a monologue, but with two people. It's just two people waiting to give their speeches, and they're not really listening to the other person. Very often I hear us on calls giving duologues. We're just giving our speech, and then the customer's just waiting for us to stop speaking so they can say their speech because they weren't done talking in the first place. We accidentally cut them off. And then we have these two separate conversations that never really mesh. And so we get our goals incorrect because we never had that exchange. We didn't ask those questions. So what the questions do is they provide us the opportunity to have a dialogue. And a dialogue is when two people have a conversation and then it evolves into something more than it would have been if they just did some research on the internet, right? I mean, I could do some super sleuthing on mortgages and come to some decisions on my own, but if I have a dialogue with somebody, then my opinions might be influenced by that of the person. It's going to be a dynamic conversation with an ebb and flow and some listening and some questions, and it's going to grow and it's going to manifest much greater than if I just waited to give my speech. All right, so aim for the dialogue today, not the duologue. Memorize your rebuttals, so much so that you can do them on autopilot, so you don't have to think about them while the other person's talking. All right?